Hey all, welcome back to my channel. Hi everybody. If you are watching my channel for the first time, make sure you subscribe my channel because in this channel I'll be posting a video on full AI course, and this is on we are on day 15 of this full AI course. So if you subscribe my channel and turn on the notifications so you will not be missing any updates. Without any, let's get into the video. In today's video, we are going to see about Python functions. In the thumbnail, you might have seen that Python functions is generally called as the brain of programming. Why it is generally called as brain of programming? What might be the reason? These are all the things. By the end of this video, you will clearly understand why we call functions as the brain of programming, specifically in Python. Without any delay, let's get started. So what simply is a function when it comes to Python? A function is actually a reusable block of code. It is used whenever I need to call a name, and that name does the task that I have in mind, or whatever task I taught my function. So whenever I need to do this task, that particular task repeated number of times, I need not create lines of coding which explains it clearly to my Python. Instead, what I can do is I can just create a function below which I can mention the task that I need to do. Whenever I need that task need to be done, what I can simply do is I can just call the name of the function. That simply is function. But let's see the official definition of function. Function is a reusable block of code. Instead of writing the same logic multiple times, we write it once and reuse it. So the real life example could be if I want to turn on the fan, what I have to do is I need to turn on the switch. That's how it runs, right? Similar to that, if I want to run a function, what I have to do is I need to simply call the function by calling the name of the function. That's simply how function in Python works. Let's get started with an example. So, if I want to print a particular printing statement, let's consider I'm having a website. So, whenever a customer visits my website, it needs to show a printing statement. Hello, welcome to my page. Happy shopping. So this is some message that need to be shown each and every time. So if I want to do this manually, what I have to do is I need to print that with printing statement multiple number of times, as many times as my customer visits the website or as many customers visit my website. But it can be done easily just by using function, just by calling a name of a function. So if I write my Python code in a way, whenever a customer clicks on this particular button, you need to show this message. So if they try to move to another page, show information about that. So likewise, if I want to do so many things, I need not create lines of coding under the task. So if I want to specifically repeat the task each and every time when other customers come again, what I can do is under a function, I can add the task and logic clearly. So when that particular function is being called, the task will be done and the logic will be get executed. That is how function works. So this is what I need to do manually, right? But let's see how to do this with function. So what I have to do is, this is a syntax of a function. This is how it will look like. First, a def keyword, which is used for defining a function. To tell my Python programming language this is a function, this is something that I have to use. Def, that is how you call a function. I mean, you are going to name a function. Followed by that, I'm giving name to a function. This is called as user-defined function. The user-defined function is something where as a programmer, as a one who codes this, they are giving name to this particular function that is called as user-defined function. In Python, we do have built-in functions. So like something like math and all, if I want to do mathematical calculations, I can use those built-in functions. But when I need to specify a particular logic under my function, I need to create a function name that is called as user-defined function, as similar to this one. Say hello is the use of this function. So I am naming in this way. Next to the function name, I need to give open parenthesis and close parenthesis. I mean these two brackets, open brackets, and close brackets. Next to that, I need to give a colon. This is the first line of every function. This is how it will look like. Next to that, I am giving my printing statement. Before printing, what I've given is very important. It is called as indentation in Python. Instead of calling this 4 spaces, manually if you want to give space for indentation, you have to click on spacebar 4 times, or else I could use tab twice in online editors, and if it is an offline editor, using it once is enough. It will create 4 spaces. So that is called as, on the next line I need to give indentation. Next to that, I am using print for printing my printing statement. Followed by that, I am giving a printing statement inside that, which need to be printed. So here I am giving hello. Instead of this, I can call this printing statement. Hello, welcome to my page, happy shopping. So, how this function works? It is simple. Just by calling the function name, alongside I need to give parentheses as well. So, if I call it first time, it will print hello, welcome to my page, happy shopping. If I call it twice, it will print hello, welcome to my page, happy shopping. If I call it thrice, it will print this 3 times. If I call it once again, what would happen definitely? It will print it once again. So this simply is how function in Python works. Next, this is the syntax of function. This is something that I've already explained in the previous coding part itself. So def is something that tells Python we are defining a function. And function should function should always be a meaningful one. So we should give a meaningful name. The reason why I use function is to define a logic or a task, right? So the function name should define what task or what logic I'm going to define. So that is how function name should be created. Next, indentation. On the next line, these 4 spaces are mandatory. That is why indentation in Python programming is mandatory. So based on these rules, they have created a function. So this specific function is giving a printing statement. Welcome to Python functions. If you are watching my video for the first time, welcome to my YouTube channel. Happy learning. So whenever someone visits my channel, if I want to print it likewise, what I can do is I can use greet. This greet is something a user defined function. Why? Because I'm naming that function as greet because it is doing the purpose of greeting someone whoever visits my YouTube channel. So what would be the output here? Welcome to my YouTube channel. Why it is not printed? Why? Because I didn't call the function. That is what I told. That's very important. What I have to do is on the next line, no indentation is required. Just I need to give greet over here. So now the printing statement will get printed. So if I call it once again, if someone else is visiting, once again, I need to give greet. See what mistake I'm doing here? Welcome to my channel. Let's make it simple. Welcome to it's two. So if 2 persons are visiting, then it should print welcome to my channel for both. So that's how functions in Python work. So based on the use and need, you could give the name of the function. Next, calling a function. So this is exactly what they did. Whenever I call the function with the name of the function, greet, what would be the output? Yes, welcome to my channel. You guessed it right. Next, function with one parameter. So here I'm defining function here. Here I'm defining function, right? So next to this parenthesis, if I'm opening and closing the parenthesis, inside if I could pass a variable. In Python, in functions, we call that as parameters. We have clearly seen what is variable and value, right? As similar to that, in functions, we have parameters and arguments. That simple it is. You need not get any confusion. Likewise, what is this parameters, arguments, so many twisted words. It is exactly similar to how variables and values work. For x we have 5, for b we have 2. Likewise, for a parameter we have an argument. Simply understand in that way so you'll never forget it. So here, name is a parameter as similar to a variable. Next, I'm deciding the purpose of this particular function. Print, I'm giving a printing statement, and here name, I'm calling the parameter as similar to a variable. I'm calling the variable here. So the purpose of this function is to print this hello, and for name, for variable or for this parameter, whenever I pass an argument, are similar to whenever I pass a value to a variable, if I pass an argument to a parameter, it will be printed in this format, hello. Whenever I give another string like this, hello, name. So for name, whatever I'm giving as an argument will get printed here. So first I'm giving Kavya. So it will print hello Kavya. Next I'm giving student. So it will print hello student. Likewise it will work. Let's see the output if it's right. Exactly. That is how function with parameters work. And this is parameter and this is argument. Name is parameter, Kavya is argument. Name is parameter again, student is argument. Next to that, function with multiple parameters. So we might have seen multiple values with multiple variables, right? As similar to that, we have multiple parameters. So for that, I'm using two parameters here, A and B. So what could I do with these two parameters? I could add, I could subtract, I could division or something. So for that, I'm giving a logic as print A plus B. So these two values, whenever I give arguments to these parameters, it need to be added. That is the logic that I'm defining here. Next to that, I'm calling the name of the function, add numbers, and I'm giving arguments to that. For A, now the value is 10, and for B, the value is 5. I mean, for these two parameters, I have passed in the arguments. And again, I'm passing another two arguments. So the output would be adding these two numbers. 10 plus 5 is 15 and 3 plus 7 is 10. So the output would be 15 and 10. So this is how parameters with multiple parameters work. I mean, function with multiple parameters work. So instead of using printing statement in Python functions, I can use something called return. So the usage of return could be easily understood by seeing the difference. Print is generally used for displaying output on screen, but return gives output back to the program. So in program, the logic will continue by returning the value of the particular logic to another variable. I'm going to store the value, the result to another variable, and then whenever I need to print the output, I will not call the function name. Instead, I will call the variable inside which I store the function. So let's see one example to understand how it works. So here in printing, using printing with the function, I'm doing this way, right? Just using the printing statement. But when I use return statement in Python, first I'll define my function. Next to that, I'll give my return statement in this format. I'll give indentation, then return. Next to that, I'll give space. Next to which, wait a second, it's doing something like this. Okay. So I'll be specifying the condition as A plus B. So whenever this function is called, it need to be added based on the parameters. So next to that, followed by that, inside a variable result, I'm storing this function. So for this particular parameters, I'm passing an argument. So inside this variable, this function will get stored. So instead of calling the function name, what I have to do is I call the variable. That is the use of return statement in Python. So I'm not calling the add here. Instead, I'm using result. Inside print, I'm calling the variable. So the output would exactly the same. It will do the addition process, but we are using the programming format in a bit different way. So this is for seeing the difference. This coding is for understanding the difference between normal print and return statement in Python. So see what we are doing here. First, I'm using function and I'm using the printing statement in this format. Next to that, I'm calling a function and I'm defining a function and I'm trying to use return. So what is the goal of this function actually? Just printing 100, right? So for printing, just by using printing, what I can do is I need to call the function name. But when I use return statement inside a variable, I need to store that with function and I need to print that. So whenever I write a coding, that task need to be, the number of lines of coding need to be minimized, and this task is exactly repetitive. This part of return statement is absolutely an advantage. So when you keep on practicing, you will get to know why return statement is advantageous, has so many advantages. So next, after this, let's try to understand what is default parameters. So when I have two parameters, I need to pass two arguments, right? If that I didn't do that properly. So here, let's take the same program, this program itself, to understand how default parameters work. So for this process, I have two parameters and here I have given two arguments. What if I miss to give one argument here? Guess the output? Some people might have guessed it right. It will throw an error because for these parameters, we do not have enough number of arguments. I should give 10 or some other numbers because based on the numbers of parameters, the number of arguments should be decided. So if the equal number is not there, it will throw an error. So to avoid that error, what I can do is for some particular parameters, even if an argument is not passed, that argument could be stored in the first line of coding by passing this way. Even if my user didn't give the value for this particular parameter, they didn't pass the argument. What it will do is my program will automatically use this argument. So it is called as default parameter. So see this function is used for printing the name of the person, what they give as argument. Then is from country. So it will be like this. Venisha is from country, likewise. So your name is from country, likewise. So instead of this country, your country will be added here. So first I'm defining the function using def. Then I'm giving name as function name as country, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. So here I have given the parenthesis, the parameter, first parameter is name and my second parameter is country. So for my second parameter, I'm giving default parameter. I'm giving argument as India. Even if my user didn't pass an argument, you could print India as their country. So in the printing statement, what could be printed? Name is from country. So if the particular person's name is Kavya. So in my first function, country of Kavya. So Kavya should be the argument for this particular parameter. So Kavya is from. So here I have just passed one argument, right? Where is the another one? Will it throw an error? No, it will not. Why? Because we have given a default parameter for country. So what would be the output? Kavya is from India would be the output. So for the next time, I'm giving Alex in USA. So here, the first parameter, I have given the argument. For the second parameter also, I have given the argument. So what would be the output? Kavya is from India because the country is not given here. Alex is from USA because both the arguments are given properly. So this is how default parameters in Python specifically works. Next, returning multiple values. So for a particular function, if I assign multiple logics that need to be done, if I assign multiple tasks that need to be done, that is called as returning multiple values. Just by giving one or two input, if I am getting multiple outputs, that is called as returning multiple values. So let's see a simple example here. In this example, so I'm giving calculations of my function name, inside which I'm passing two parameters. Followed by that, for these two parameters, what I have to do is, whenever the arguments are being passed, for all those arguments, it need to be added, it need to be subtracted, it need to be multiplied. So inside, I'm using return statement here, right? So based on that, for this return statement, a plus b, a minus b, and a into b. So for these three parameters, for these three logics, what I have to do is I need to create three different variables. inside which I'm calling the function name as calculations. So for A as a parameter, I'm giving argument as 10. For B as a parameter, I'm giving argument as 5. So what will happen? 10 plus 5. The first value will get printed as 15. 10 minus 5. The second value would be 5. 10 into 5, 50 would be the third value. So all these values would get saved to these three variables and the final output would be like this. 15, 5 and 50. So this is how the output would look like. And finally, let's end up with seeing some common beginner mistakes that you could make if you're learning functions in Python for the first time. So first thing that you could make as a mistake is forgetting the parenthesis while defining a function name or calling a function. So parenthesis is something, the open bracket and close bracket, that you should never forget. If you miss it out, it will not give the exact output that you expect. The second thing is wrong indentation. So on the next line, here, before return and before print, you should give one indentation. You shouldn't give two indentation likewise. Or instead of, while defining variable and all, instead of using indentation in front of return statement or printing statement, you shouldn't use before yes and all. So if you use it in a wrong way, it will throw an error. And when you used written on the second line, you can't expect the output of a print. And when you used print on the second line, you can't expect the output of a return. So that is something you should keep on mind. And finally, let's see one real life example. It's very simple. So in building systems, what they would be doing? Well, generally based on how many things that I give to the counterpart, they will check it out and they will do the building, right? So if I purchase a particular product 3 times, what will they do? So they'll just add the quantity as 3. What my building system need to do? So it just need to multiply my product cost into 3. So it will get the exact value. So for that, I'm creating a function here. That simple it is. So I'm here using return statement. I'm doing it. That simple it is. So additionally, I'm just using a printing statement of total. So nothing special here. So in real life, how it could be applied, that is something. So finally, these are the things that you should remember about functions in Python. Functions generally created because the code is reusable. And def is a keyword that is used for defining functions. And parameters, as I already mentioned, is like a variable and to which we'll be giving value. So it is used for getting an input. And return is for giving an output to the user. So these are the things that you need to remember. Specifically about functions. I believe you clearly understand what is functions in Python. So if you have any doubts, without any hesitation, drop them in the comments. Bye for now. We'll meet you on the next video.